Hello everyone, it's Linda O'Connor here again with another SBCN TV, and yes, we are live. I'm very happy to say we have our sponsor, Steve Bentley, Northern River Financial, with us tonight.
How are you?
I'm doing really well, Steve, and it's been really exciting after our first live show a couple of weeks ago. We've had some good feedback, haven't we?
I think the questions we got were great, the participation, the viewership, and people even just watching the video through YouTube or online.
Yeah. So
great.
We're here to offer you some really great business ideas, business tips. We want to answer your questions. If you've got some questions now, if you're watching live, or if you remember to email us, because I've been posting all day as Steve has on social media. Just email us with some questions. So Steve, I know you've got a really good topic for tonight because somebody mentioned it to you when you were actually at one of your events. Is that right?
Yes, and it's something that's dear to your heart, but I know people in business, they need at some point to get up in front of a group of people and explain who they are and what their business is. And most people have a tough time doing that, right? The stage fright that comes up, right? But you are, as an entrepreneur or small business owner, going to have to do that. And you need to be clear to articulate and communicate about your business, right? Most people are scared and they're intimidated, but you got to just, I always told, if you're looking at your audience, pretend they're all in their underwear, right? So you are relaxed. But
I bet you
you don't say anything, of course.
Or you want to run away.
But, you want to embrace it, become really good about it. And I always use this adage, and I think, if you're talking about public speaking, think of it, most of us in some way participate in some form of sports or some form of art or craft, right? But think of it as an athlete, right? You, at game time, have to be your best, and you have to be able to take time before that to practice, to learn your skills, to think about your game theory, and that's no different to speaking in front of a group of people. So really I think that's really the way I'd like to sort of look at it, because if you're not prepared, then you might as well just sit down. Right, because you're going to lose your audience very quickly.
Definitely. And again, it depends what kind of audience you're speaking to and what kind of presentation. So I've seen some excellent speakers, but their content's been rubbish. Mm-hmm. And you'll have seen some really dry speakers and their content's been amazing. And then do you use a PowerPoint as a backdrop? Mm-hmm. Do you need to put lots of points on the PowerPoint? Mm-hmm. Do you go without the PowerPoint? It all depends what your topic is that you're speaking about. And I think
where I want to go to is sort of what I call my 5 bad habits.
Ooh, I like
what
it.
Not to do. And we go to presentations and people are speaking and they're repeating the same thing over again. They're making the same mistakes. And they maybe don't understand or realize it. So there's some real
they're not
reasons to bring it
repeating
out.
the content, they're repeating the same mistakes.
Well, sometimes even the content, right? But I think the first question people have to ask themselves if they're going to speak to a group of people. Now, if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, a lot of this should be already in your head, right? But why are you speaking to them? And I think when you're specifically looking at a group of people, you need to target in as to what that group is and what they're there for, right? Sure, you've got your business. Sure, you've got things you want to talk about. But if you can tie directly into that group to start, then you're going to get engagement.
So let's be clear here, just so nobody gets confused out there. We're talking about small groups, speaking to small groups. We're not talking about when you're opening the conference and you're the keynote speaker. No. Because the keynote speaker doesn't go to small groups. So this is somebody who wants to push the business and do a presentation.
I'm strictly talking about people who have to get in front of a group of people to talk about their business.
Okay, I'm with you. So what bad habits do they have?
So, you got to get to, what are you trying to achieve? First of all, you got to go the why, the what. And the what for me is really asking yourself a couple questions about your intention, right? What are you trying to give your audience? You need to understand what it is you're trying to impart, because only then will you know if they're receiving it. Right? Okay. So you got to want them to feel when you speak. In other words, you need to engage with them. How many talks have you been to where you're just, oh my gosh, when's he going to stop, or when's she going to stop? Because they're just monologues and they're just talking and talking and talking and they're not engaging with your audience. I know when you get up and speak, for example, you're moving around. You don't have, a podium. You don't have, a lot of notes in front of you because you want to talk to your audience and you engage with your audience, right? But that's okay because you've done it enough times. But for people that haven't had that opportunity, you have to find to engage with them, right? And then what is it you want them to take away? The takeaway is something a lot of people miss when they actually have that public speaking.
So would this be a sales pitch, or would this be just want people to know who you are as a business person?
Right. I think you want people to be able to walk away and remember what and who you are. right? And specifically,
so it's not a sales pitch.
It doesn't. Here's the problem: people don't have to make a sales pitch
unless they're doing a presentation for their company. Well, a sales guy,
sure, or if they're trying to get money from a group of people or something like that, right? But
if we're not talking about
you don't want it to be overly pitchy, right? And you can sort of accomplish the same thing without getting too direct. And I think that's even in our industry, right? Don't talk about product. Talk about what you do for people, how you can help people. Right. And the same with, why should I buy your widget or why should I get your services? I need to walk away knowing, hey, I need that and this is the person to talk to. So I think that's sort of important. So the what is really important, right? But what about the walk?
The walk?
Do I get up on stage and just stand there and just not move and just not look around? Oh my gosh, you're going to lose contact with the audience within the first 30 seconds, right? Okay. So they have to see you and they have to be able to engage with you and they have to feel that it's not just a talk, it's actually having more of a conversation with a group of people.
It's definitely a conversation.
Ultimately, that's what it comes to.
But
bad habits, right?
Yeah.
When you actually get up there, again, you need to look at default intentions. In other words, you need to know that you clearly have an idea what you want to talk about, and it's an opportunity to actually have that conversation, right? I think people get into the problem where they get too canned and they get too rehearsed, and that will come to as well. But you need to have those clear intentions so that you're going out there and what is the real idea that you really want to put forward and have people leave with.
Can I jump in? I'm not against Toastmasters. I love Toastmasters for many reasons. It helps people who are nervous. But I think one of the biggest mistakes people make today is thinking that they have to act the way Toastmasters tell them and do certain hand gestures and pause, and the tear comes down their face. So that's the kind of presentation skills I don't respect.
I know at our meetings on a monthly basis, we do a power-up session with somebody, and he's somebody who's come through.
You can name him.
Gunther Kramer with his power-up sessions, and he's the one who's a very good communicator because he has done Toastmasters, but he's taken what's important.
He's very natural.
He's not just doing everything they say. He's taking the best as it applies to him, and he's very natural. He engages with his audience, and he gets his points across.
And when we came up with SBCN power-up sessions, Gunther was a natural choice for us because of his skill set. Because he knows what he wants to talk about and is a natural speaker, I don't notice the Toastmasters in him, so he's got it exactly right. He knows what he's doing.
Do you know what a lot of people are afraid to do?
No.
Or what do they do? Initially when they get into, if you've done a lot of presentations and a lot of it becomes in some ways entrenched, right?
But you should never be complacent and think you always do a good job. You should always walk away thinking you can do better.
Here's the opposite bad habit though. When we get into memorization, right? We sit there and we memorize and we just sort of verbal diarrhea, right? Just in front. No, right? It's even when you have your notes in front of you, right? I notice, when people have their notes in front of them, those are good speakers are the ones that have maybe a couple points. Yeah. In other words, it's a point of, I make sure I want to cover that off. Right?
That's good.
So that's, as opposed to cue cards. Yeah, remember those cue cards and people, reading them.
I'm going to be fair and say not everybody's as able as say you are or me or Gunther. So I don't mind the cue cards. I really don't. And they may have a lot more information to remember than say me or you. So everything has a place, whatever makes you feel comfortable, honestly.
Right. I use my happy birthday analogy, right? Everybody likes happy birthday. Everybody knows the words. Everybody sings it. Everybody enjoys it. And they walk away being happy for the person they sang for, right? So that's what you want to try and accomplish through a talk. It's sort of the same kind of thing. But the last thing you want to do, because everybody knows the words, right? The last thing you want to do is have rehearsed to the point where you're not actually communicating, you're just repeating, right?
It's a conversation.
So here's the key piece, right? And we do this with younger people in our profession, is to actually sit down and say, you know what? You're in front of a client. You think you're acting a certain way. Of course, they have to talk and present. It's a different environment, sure. But they have a perspective of how they've done it. So what do? We actually get people to videotape that conversation. So then we can play it back to them and they can see how they've actually made that presentation and what they've done well and what they haven't done well. So you can do that in public speaking too, right? And a lot of people do that. Or get in front of somebody, colleagues, friends, whatever, and just do your presentation. And people will people will be fair with you, constructive criticism, but they're going to come back and they're going to tell you hopefully, honestly, what's good and what's bad about it.
It's always good to get feedback, especially if you are wanting to be a professional speaker. It's good to get feedback. It's about telling a story ultimately, whether you are a salesperson or whatever you're doing, tell a story, connect to the audience in that way.
And you know yourself in your presentations that is what people engage with, those stories, because they can think in their own mind, I've been through that, or I can understand that. And so people automatically feel that they're part of that conversation, right?
Last?
Well, just a couple more, but I'm going to say, here's a couple things. Certainly, we always go into an event or, potentially do a presentation where we've got a podium in front of us, right? Yeah. What do you think the worst thing is? Standing in front of the podium, holding on to both sides, and just talking directly. What should we do? And I already talked about cue cards and that kind of thing, right? Maybe you've got those notes in your podium, but you should be walking around. You should be engagement, depending on the event.
Yeah, sometimes the event, and they've done this to me in the past, they have the mic attached to the podium, so you've got no choice. Right. Unless you ask for a lapel mic or, or a handheld. So sometimes they can't help that.
But that's fine. Where you have that ability, you need to be
the problem I have, and they don't realise how small I am, even with high heels, sometimes the podium is too high for me, so I have to have a box.
Exactly, right.
I have to stand on a box.
I went to a presentation last week, and guess who we were listening to? We're listening to a lawyer talk. And who are some of the dry topics you can listen to, right? Lawyers, accountants, that kind of thing. But she had a lapel mic, and she walked around, and she was humorous, and she engaged with her clients. She engaged with the public. So she was actually very, very good in terms of working the room. Not everybody has that opportunity, but key piece is don't hug that podium, right?
Yeah.
And if you have notes, have them as a point of reference, but don't be carrying around, just being focused.
I have to say, having known you for many, many, many years, you are an excellent presenter. You really, really are. You're very natural. I don't know any of those bad habits that you do.
Well, I think we all know a little bit of our bad habits, right? But it's just through practice,
I mean, some people say umming and ahhing's a bad habit, but to be honest, everybody ums and ahs and nobody notices. But how did you learn to be such a good presenter? Is it because you're so practiced and you feel comfortable?
And I feel comfortable. I mean, I naturally, years ago, was just shy in front of a group of people. But we came the same walk in the sense that we don't have a problem being in front of people or speaking to a group of people, right? You touched on a point, though, that's very important. How many people live their presentation through a PowerPoint presentation, right? Where they've got all of these bullet points and they end up, and I've seen it, where instead of talking to their audience, they're reading from the screen, right? PowerPoint is a good visual aid for point of reference, but not linear detail in terms of all the points that you want to carry, right? And I've seen presentations where they just go slide, and you're sort of, oh my gosh, you're lost the first couple.
So if there's lots of, say, analytics, I can't say that word, or there's a reason you need lots of slides, obviously go for it, but really it should be a small backdrop or a reminder. And all you have to do when you're doing a presentation, you tell them what you want to tell them the first time, tell them the same thing in a different way the third time, and the third time in closing, you tell them the same thing again, but in a different way.
So the final point, I'm going to come into the same point of discussion you just said, is you need to have a clear, consistent message, right? The last thing you want to do is wing it. You know that expression where you just get up on stage and you just...
I don't know what my message is.
Well, that's the problem, right? And you could be speaking for 5-10 minutes and then people don't really know what you're talking about. Because
but you should start off, really.
What I mean by winging it is be prepared. It's like, again, getting ready for a game. You practice, right? You know what you want to say. It doesn't mean you're going to use actually the exact words.
You've got it in your head.
But you've got it, or you've got your visual reference to sort of cover off on the points you want to cover. But don't just get up there and just, I can do it, right? How many times have you seen people get up and they just talk and there's really no connection between what they're saying, and they're bouncing all over the place.
That must be
and you sort of say at the end of that, you say, what are you trying to communicate? So those are my 5 things that I ask people not to do. Those
are excellent points. And did you say you're having a discussion about it today? And this is one of the topics that people said, give us some ideas, Steve, some really good hints on.
Because, actually it came up when I had a conversation with somebody today because we did a television show in Brantford. And one of the people just sort of asked that question, right? Because he can go on TV, he could be fine. But I mean, we're in a small room with 4 people, so it's not really a big issue. But getting in front of people, he just said, how do you sort of take that natural ability to speak and take it in front of a group of people?
And you are right. I mean, it's something you can you can be born with that that skill set and be natural. You could be offering really great content but not be a very good speaker, and there's a lot of those. Or you could just, as I say, go to Toastmasters or come to someone like you and me and learn some tips on to do it. So for those of you out there tonight listening to us, and I can see we have some live people, but it looks like you are very, 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 very shy. So for those of you out there tonight, if you do have any follow-up questions on this, feel free to email the show, and we'll get back to you. But I'm not joking when I say you are an excellent presenter in whatever capacity. I've seen you present quite a few times. And you bring us into this world and you make it seem so real for us. And you are selling some of the times. You are selling something.
Of course. There's always a natural
part
of it.
Would never know that.
But it's a conversation. It really is.
It's absolutely
except
amazing.
You're talking to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, so that was a really good topic. Thank you, Steve. I would never have come up with some of those bad habits. I still and ah. After all this time, I and ah.
You can't not do that. And the only advice I give to people is just don't speak so quickly. Take a moment. If you have to pause and say nothing to collect your thought, fine.
Yeah.
But we all get into the point of, okay, like.
Oh my God.
Well, I had a radio host ask me the other day, and she said, "What are the grammatical hates that you have?" And one of them was like, okay.
Were you listening to me talking to Dave earlier? I'm not going to say who or what, but a couple of days ago, I was watching a video. It was like and it was, please stop with the likes. And it was like.
Yeah.
I was like, please. No, that's a really bad habit, isn't it?
Yeah. So
we got to be careful.
Pause,
do that.
Think, don't just speak. Take a moment to collect your thoughts sometimes.
And if I talk too fast, people don't understand me.
Now, we were talking a little earlier about a topic that you had sort of wanted to talk about tonight, a question that somebody asked you.
And I have made some notes because my memory is not as good as it used to be. One of the best things that helped me build two businesses is LinkedIn. As an early adopter for LinkedIn, and in those early days, I don't know how long you've been on LinkedIn, Steve, but have you noticed it's changed?
10 years, I think.
It's changed.
It's always changing, right?
It's changed a lot. And so I was sitting talking to somebody yesterday, and they said to me, we don't like LinkedIn because it's very much now like Facebook. There's nothing wrong with Facebook people, but there should be two separate entities. But the biggest thing is the noise on LinkedIn. So this is my analogy if you find that LinkedIn's too noisy. So do you ever go to a coffee shop for a coffee and you want a one-on-one with somebody and the room's very noisy? Yeah. So my advice is, in the coffee shop, you can't really go around saying to people, hey, do you mind, I want to have a quiet coffee with my friend, I want to have a quiet chat, can you be quiet? You just kind of shut out the noise and carry on talking, don't you? That is my first tip for being able to use LinkedIn and feel comfortable. You are there for a reason. Why are you on LinkedIn, Steve? Why did you start using LinkedIn?
To me, it's a business-to-business communication tool, right? And I think that's the thing about social media is each site has a very specific purpose. And the problem you talk about noise and the cross-contamination with some sites trying to look similar, you got to use it for what it's intended for, right?
You got to use it how you want to use it.
It's a business presence, right? It's a lot of technical communications, a lot of sharing of articles, all related to the business lines.
But you know why you're using it, right. And I know why I'm using it. So what I suggest people do is, and you've already done this and I've done this, so know who you're connecting to and why. And I always say to people, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Yeah. Now, you may look at my LinkedIn and go, why are you saying that when you've got thousands of people? Well, I get to the point where I find it hard to say no. But if people are not acting in a good manner, then I ditch them. So basically, let's take you, Steve. Say you were new to business and you wanted to use LinkedIn. What would be one kind of demographic that you would want to connect to if you were in, say, sales?
Well, I think even just look at your sales and look at your ideal clients, right? And I think if that's who you're trying to communicate to, then you need to build your LinkedIn profile to try and reach those people.
Which people, though? Right? Are you trying to reach other salespeople or your clients?
My clients.
Your clients.
To be honest with you.
And basically, you've done your homework and you know your target market, so you kind of know what kind of clients you want to reach. Okay, so decide who you want to connect to and why. But we don't just, and I know you don't, we don't just connect to people who we want to be our clients. We connect with people who we can build alliances with, who may end up being our sponsors. That's happened to you and me, as we know. We also connect to other people to mentor us, and we're big in mentoring, as you know. So make a list of all the reasons that you think you want to use LinkedIn and just choose one of those things in the first place. Don't overwhelm yourself. So I suggest you start with your target market. Start looking at your target market and see how they're using LinkedIn. If you want to also look at some of your competitors, that's a good idea. Not because you're scared of competitors, because you want to see what they're doing better than you.
That's
you
a very important point, because I always find people are afraid to talk about their competition.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information you can get for LinkedIn, for example, to find out about who you're actually in business against.
Yeah,
right?
and you say against, but I don't find
competitively.
Yeah. In this day and age, I don't think there's many people out there in business who can't see the benefit of having an alliance with a competitor. So one might have been in business 20 years, another in business, say, 10 years, and then a new business. So there's always the possibility when you get to know each other, you can pass on work to each other, you can help each other. And I always say nobody can steal your clients unless you're doing a really crappy job. And this is so true, people. So nobody's going to steal your brand. Nobody's going to steal your ideas. Nobody's going to steal your clients. So make your competitors your friends. So we've decided why we're using LinkedIn, who we want to connect with, and why. So your profile, one of the things I say is your profile should be amazing. It should shout out to the world. It should scream, I'm amazing, in a really nice way. But everybody knows that. So I want people now to think about when they're using LinkedIn about, you've got a great profile.
Right.
People are connecting to you. So I want you to start posting content. Now, you can post articles, as you know, so measure the success of those articles. But today, or this evening, I want to talk about how, you write a regular post.
Right.
And it could be, today I had a coffee meeting and I gained a new client, and there's a picture of the client there, and you name who the client is. And then basically people will like, comment, or share. So what I want you to do, I want you to see who those people are. So when you're on your LinkedIn, your own LinkedIn page, so scroll down to your dashboard. I've got some notes so I don't forget. And you click on your activity. And you've done this, Steve. And then, so you've got post, activity, and something else. So I want you to click on post, your post. That's the one in the middle. I can't remember what the first one is. And then once you've clicked on your post, so we just posted something. So I met somebody for coffee today. It was Steve. He's a millionaire. He's going to sponsor me so I can buy a yacht, and then I'm going to buy another yacht, and I'm going to become like, what would he be called? A person who sells lots of yachts.
Doesn't matter, you're dreaming.
I'm dreaming, yeah. And basically, because I've mentioned your name, and I've mentioned $1 million, and I've mentioned a yacht, and also there's a picture of you, when you scroll down to see what's happening, you can see the demographics of who's looking at you. You can also see which kind of area they come from. So we live in Waterloo region and work in Waterloo region predominantly, say for the purpose of this. So we want people to be looking at us and interested in what we're doing from Waterloo region. Now, if you're a global company, you're looking for people from all over the globe to be looking at you. You can also see what kind of role they play in their organisation. Is it a CEO? I doubt it. Is it a HR person? Probably. Is it a salesperson? Probably. Then the most important thing, people say, oh, okay, so I've got no comments. That's okay. You've got all this information. What I'm looking for is what people like about your post and my post and your post. So if you post, say, 6 different things in 2 days, that's easy to do. And they're all basically different reasons why you're posting them. And then you scroll down and you click on your post activity to see how many likes. If you find, which I'm sure you do, but sometimes it could be 3,500 likes, then you know that you've done something right. You know that people are looking at your post for a reason. Then you have to go that bit further. So, look, in my case, I'm a motivational speaker. And I have this person who's hosting a conference looking at me and liking what I'm doing. What will my next step be? First, I'm going to check my email to see that they've contacted me. Yes. Seriously, people forget that.
They do.
And people think, they will message me on LinkedIn. Not necessarily.
They don't necessarily know how to message you on LinkedIn, right?
But we're connected.
Well, exactly.
They found me on there, so they could send me a private message. But it's more professional to actually say, I'm going to send you an email because I want to find out more about you.
But you know what's important, too? And I went into somebody's profile today because I wanted to communicate with them. And I clicked on their email, and it wasn't valid. It wasn't current.
Big mistake.
And so the validity and the currentness of the information, but you talk about posts and you talk about looking at the metrics attached to what you're posting.
You've got to.
Because you learn a lot, as you just said, about who is interacting with you, right? Something about profile, and you talk about content. Even content that isn't directly
yours,
business specific. It could be, we were involved in this charitable activity the other night, right? Yeah. It's amazing how much feedback, because it gives people a perspective of who you are as a person to some degree.
But if you're not doing that, and you're not keeping tabs on the what, the why, the who, the when, what are you on LinkedIn for? Just to look pretty? I mean, I know we are, Steve, but...
A lot of people are on LinkedIn because they're told they should be on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But they don't understand why or what should be.
And let's go back to the coffee shop. We meet for a coffee at the coffee shop, pretend it's LinkedIn, but it's a coffee shop. And we go, hi, Steve, and you go, hi, Linda. And then we sit there and we drink our coffee. We don't say anything to each other. What is the point of doing that? So why would you do it on LinkedIn?
It's all about engagement,
It is, but it's difficult on LinkedIn. I understand that because people don't really understand who to engage with and why. So, for instance, let's say I want to connect with you and engage with you because I know that you're going to give me a really fantastic, organic, stable financial future. That's what you're known for, right?
Right.
We're only second-degree connection, though. So that means I have to either break the rules, if you allow me to, and say, hey, Steve, will you connect with me? I don't really know you. Or find somebody who can connect me to you.
See, that's some people don't even understand that second and first connected.
No.
Right?
No. So what would you do in a case like that? Would you get somebody to introduce you? Because I don't want to step on your toes and say, hey, I'm just this odd person. Or would you be happy because I'm a possible client? I mean, would you be glad to see me stalking you?
I always like warm introductions. So if there's an intermediary and I feel comfortable in asking them, they're comfortable asking that person. I think that's best because you're not abusing that relationship to get that direct connection.
It is best, yeah. And also, it's difficult to say no to somebody when I find it difficult when somebody says, Linda, I've heard that you blah blah blah, and I know nobody's connecting me to you. We haven't got an email, but I really want to get to know you. If I find out afterwards that they don't want to engage with me, Steve, and I say something like, how can I assist you? I even have a video now so that when I connect to somebody and they're local, the video goes out, how can I assist you? Can we go for a coffee? So I've done my bit and then I wait, and if nothing comes back, and then, do you know how many times people say to me, I just wanted to build my connections. Do you know how bad that is?
Well, they don't care about you is what they're basically saying.
What do you think? I
just want to be a statistic, right?
Well, I don't want to be a statistic. I can't say that word. I don't. So do's and don'ts of not using LinkedIn would be, don't use it and not keep an eye on what you're doing. Measure the success of your posts. Know who you're connecting to and why. And yeah, I like the introduction as well. I like to know who wants to connect to me, and if they know you, Steve, then I know they're kosher.
Well, LinkedIn aside, I've always said that in business is if you have a warm connection or a way to have a warm connection with somebody before you connect and actually communicate with them, that's better. Because you don't want to abuse the privilege. And a lot of people, how many emails do you get that you're not even asked for, right? People just assume I should put you on my email distribution list. Well,
don't go there.
Don't do that, right? I mean, there's laws against certain types of email communication in Canada. It's like telephone calls, right? So you need to be careful too. So
I've actually got great leads from LinkedIn. People don't really understand lead generation and how they can make it work. We know how to do that, Steve. That's another good topic. But don't use LinkedIn as you would, you're sitting in a coffee shop and not talking to anybody. Engage with people, put content out there, and read other people's content.
Exactly. But social media doesn't replace person-to-person communication. And a lot of people think, well, let's just create this great social media presence, and then you hear crickets. Right, you need to take that to the next step and actually communicate.
And also, if we're not in the same country, what I always suggest is we have a Skype call or a video conference. There's no excuse really not to actually get as close as possible, even if you're in another country.
Well, we do that with a lot of clients too because it's less invasive in terms of having to go out and have a formal meeting with somebody. Get on a quick Skype call or do it through FaceTime or whatever other tools are available. There's lots of them. It's nice to see people and talk face to face, even if it's screen to screen.
So we have got some shy people tonight, but they're not going to ask any questions, so maybe next time. Steve, I think we had some really great topics tonight to talk about. And what I do in closing is to find out a little bit more about you, because I think you're absolutely fantastic. And what is it that you really like about being a community-minded person? Like, why are you so much into helping local communities and even communities up north?
So there's really two reasons, right? One is to give back, because we've been very, very lucky and successful, and we've had a lot of people and who've done well by us and helped us in a lot of ways. And why be selfish? If you have some very specific causes to your heart, why not go back and actually try and give back, right? Here's number one. But number two, let's look at it from a business perspective. How many people are you meeting in the course of what you're doing who all of a sudden they say, oh, you do this, I love this opportunity too. And you get to meet people and talk to people. It's a good way to develop prospective people that could become clients, right? Not that that's the purpose of doing it. No. It's just a natural side effect of it, right? Yeah. So those are the two things that we look at.
You are very well known for being very community-minded, giving back. You mentor through our organisation and other organisations. And yes, it's definitely helped your credibility, your visibility. And I think today more than ever, people want to know who they're doing business with.
You know, the worst part though is when you go into. I remember a couple about a year ago. I was in a restaurant in Kitchener, right? And I'm sitting talking with somebody, and all of a sudden this person runs up and says, "I saw you on Twitter, and we're connected." And then he ran off, and I said, "Okay, so who was that?"
What was the
right?
point?
Why didn't you stop and say, "Hi, I'm such and such"? We connect with thousands of people.
I think it's lovely, and thank you, Steve, for being such a support for the Small Business Community Network, and for being a wonderful host on SBCN TV and our sponsor. And Northern River Financial has a website, I guess.
Well, maybe it doesn't flash on the screen. www.northernriverfinancial.ca.
It's a wonderful, wonderful name for your business. So I guess we're going to have to leave it like that tonight, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and please send your questions in or email them, because Steve and I want to reach out to you and help you, whether you're a new business, somebody thinking about starting a business that's growing and want to know, some things that Steve's been through, I've been through. We can definitely help you, can't we?
Absolutely.
So goodbye for now, and we'll be back.